Welcome to A Guide to Every Deck in EDH. Today we're looking at Sharuum the Hegemon. Now, this is a commander that you might not be familiar with unless you've been playing Commander for 10 plus years, and nowadays it really doesn't see much play anymore, but despite that, I do think it's both a fun commander and powerful enough to tangle with modern Magic EDH decks. So with that said, Sharuum is an Esper 6-drop. It's a 5/5 flying legendary artifact creature Sphinx. And it says, when Sharuum the Hegemon enters the battlefield, you may return target artifact card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So obviously we can either cheat in expensive artifacts that we put in the graveyard, but more importantly, Sharuum can combo with any clone. So how does that work? So the main best 3 clones are Sculpting Steel, Phyrexian Metamorph, and Phantasmal Image. And here's how it works. You have Sharuum in play and cast one of these clones, or you have a artifact clone in your graveyard, Metamorph or Sculpting Steel, you cast Sharuum and you reanimate it. The clone enters as a copy of Sharuum. Now, before its trigger goes on the stack and before you can even select targets, you have to choose the legend rule. So you legend one of them out, either the clone or Sharuum. Let's just say it's Sharuum. So Sharuum goes to the graveyard, and now the clone's ability goes onto the stack, and now you can target the Sharuum that's in the graveyard. So Sharuum comes back, you have to legend rule again, you put one in the graveyard, you reanimate it, you put one in the graveyard, you reanimate it, so you get infinite enter the battlefield effects and infinite death triggers. Note, this is not sacrifice triggers. The legend rule technically doesn't sacrifice one of the cards, so this will only trigger on ETB and death. Now with that said, there's many different combo pieces that you could use, but the best ones are Disciple of the Vault. Whenever an artifact is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, you may have target opponent lose 1 life. This is one of the cheapest ones we can get, so unlike a card like Blood Artist or Marionette Apprentice, this one is 1 cheaper. Or Altar of the Brood. Whenever another permanent enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent mills 1 card. The reason we have this one is because at a 1 mana artifact, we can get it off of Urza's Saga, and it itself is also an artifact. So if this is in our graveyard for whatever reason and we just need this as part of the combo, we can Sharuum it back. And it's worthwhile to have multiple different combo pieces in case one gets dealt with. Now, aside from this loop, we do have the Dramatic Scepter combo to generate infinite mana. And we have Hullbreaker Horror, which again generates infinite mana with various mana rocks, usually Sol Ring. Now that Mana Crypt has been banned, there are fewer ways of going infinite with this, but there are still some ways, like Sol Ring plus Chrome Mox can go infinite with Hullbreaker. Now, aside from that, we have some card draw spells, the usual suspects, but also ones that specifically work well with our artifact-based strategy. So Crystal Skull Isu's Spyglass is a 4 mana. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. You may play historic lands and cast historic spells from the top of your library, and it also taps for blue. And Mystic Forge, which allows us to cast artifacts and colorless spells from the top. Bunch of counter spells. We need to interact. We need to protect Sharuum combo. Muddle the Mixture can also go grab certain combo pieces like the Dramatic Scepter combo. Dark Ritual, because sometimes we just want to turbo out Sharuum and win the game. Pretty straightforward mana base with the notable additions of Manamo, mainly for untapping the 1 ring, and Inventor's Fair, which can tutor up combo pieces. Silence, protect our combo turns or stop opponents from storming off. Whole bunch of ramp spells, some removal, Chain of Vapor, Dress Down, Gilded Drake, Skyclave. A little bit of stacks with Cursed Totem and the usual, Psych Rift. And then our tutors. So this deck is very much built around combo winning. So while we do have the usual tutors like Demonic, Enlightened, etc., we also have some additions, things like Transmute Artifact. This basically lets you sack an artifact and go tutor directly onto the battlefield another artifact, and then you pay the difference in their costs. If the artifact that you grab is the same or cheaper than the one you sacrificed, then you don't have to pay anything. Fabricate goes grabs an artifact, Whir of Invention grabs an artifact, and Wishclaw Talisman can grab anything and is itself an artifact. We also have Limdual's Vault as basically a instant speed 2 mana version of Imperial Seal. Essentially, it doesn't exactly tutor whatever you want, but effectively that's what it does. And Entomb, which in this deck is a straight up combo card tutor because we can put Phyrexian Metamorph or Sculpting Steel in the graveyard, or Altar of the Brood if that's the card we're missing, and go off from there. Now with that said, obviously we could also include the Console Oracle combo in the deck if we wanted to. I've opted not to, and I'm slowly moving away from having this in decks. I think it's just a really boring combo. It just automatically goes in every single blue-black deck. I do feel that Oracle will be banned at some point, so I'm moving away from using it outside of the most pushed high power CEDH decks. Meathook Massacre is another card that can combo kill in the same way that Disciple of the Vault can. It is more expensive though, but has the added utility of being able to sometimes be a sweeper. I've opted not to include it here. I didn't feel it was necessary. Same thing with Toxic Deluge. And Seed of the Synod, as an artifact, can be relevant for getting Metalcraft or other things like, for Mox Opal or Inventor's Fair. In a 3-color deck, our mana base is pretty tight, but you could maybe include this. But with all that said, that is going to do it for Sharuum the Hegemon in EDH.